I have had a very great time reading Gachiakuta. Honestly, a lot more than I thought I would. I recently talked about its anime that is getting next year, wish all the best for it, and I recently reread all of the manga and caught up to all of the recent stuff. To say that my experience was incredibly fun, worthwhile, enjoyable, is putting it lightly. I had an amazing time reading this story and I really want to talk about it. This is going to be structured a little differently, however, easy to digest and follow without major spoilers. Before I talk about it, however, I need to give you a tiny little bit of a synopsis. There is a city in the sky. We're going to call it heaven. And this city is broken up into two parts, the rich and the poor. Pretty standard. The rich don't mess with the poor, and the poor don't really mess with the rich. Also standard. What's common between them, however, is the accumulation of trash, things that have been discarded. But the value of that trash is different. The rich throw away anything and everything, not even trying to fix the smallest of discrepancies, whereas the poor will do everything to cherish that trash, to fix it, to change it, to evolve it into something more fruitful. This value of trash is important and a staple for this story. Keep it in mind. The poor district borders on a cliff edge, a dumping site. No one knows what's down there. No one wants to know what's down there. They dump all of their trash, waste, and people. If you're a criminal of any kind, you will be thrown over the edge. This is heaven's everyday society. But underneath, on the ground where all of this trash has to go, there's another society. Creatures lurking in the dark, lurking in this trash, have been created. No one knows this, but what it also has spawned is a lifestyle, another thriving society down within the trash. Pockets of cities and tribes and towns all allocated in somewhat safe environments. These cities thrive, they work together, but they also deal with vandals, criminals, people that don't abide by the set rules. It's not a complete lawless wasteland, but it is there. And our story, while it starts in heaven, would plummet and take place in this trash society, the complete utter underworld and underbelly of this story. What you've just heard is a bite-sized fraction of the story, hopefully enough to actually go get you to read it if you haven't already. My opinion on the story is strong. I like it. It's engaging. It's enjoyable. It's fun. It's sad. It's filled to the brim with variety, which is funny because the story takes place within a trash wasteland society, but it is exactly because of that it provides variety. There's so many opportunities to take for this story, and fundamentally it's strong. While there is certain things that might feel a little different than what you're used to, the way it goes towards those things is with confidence. One of the biggest appeals for me in this story is the overarching mystery. While it has direction in getting to point A to point B to point C, the mystery is what carries a lot of that weight. If you're not necessarily vibing with the point of the story and what the main character is trying to achieve, potentially that mystery will still keep you engaged. And it's a big part of it because it's a spiraling mystery. It's not just a singular thing, there's multiple different mysteries that all tie in together really nicely. Still to this day, current chapter, we don't know a lot of those mysteries, so it continues to be engaging. But piece by piece, yourself can slowly unravel them. And while you won't get the full picture, you definitely have a much better understanding. I really enjoy this approach, especially the mystery, because it seeps into the crevices of every direction this story takes. Whether it's a small, simple arc or a big, massive, climatic one, or even the slow, intimate moments between them, there's always something there, keeping it held together. So every new location, every new environment, every new character that they meet, it's seeped into those crevices. It's not a revolutionary story, and it doesn't have to be. At some points, you might think it's actually pretty basic, but the weight that it's able to throw around, the confidence that it has pushing forward is established nicely. Now, I am a lover of characters. I'm a lover of personalities. I'm a lover of connection, conflict, romance, playfulness, and of course, chemistry. You can have a massive group of characters, but if none of them have chemistry, if none of them have connection, if none of them work together coherently, they fall apart, even if they're all strong in their own. There's 4 specific ones that I want to mention, the main 4. The first is the main character himself, Rudo. I love this boy. I think the approach towards his character, while it is over the top, very crazy, very chaotic. It's honestly kind of intimate. It's very self-reflective. And the more that you go through the story, you see that self-reflection come across really nicely. Not only with how he acts and how he thinks about situations, or even how he utilizes his powers, but more so how he interacts with others. Connection and chemistry play a really big part of Rudo's character. He is someone that comes from a completely different world, a completely different society, and he did not have much up there. At his lowest point in life, he has found people that have taken him in, shown him kindness, and in return, he's learning from them and growing himself. It's a really nice progression, and while it's not the main focus of this story, you definitely see how far he has come within those 100 chapters. There's a lot of moments where you can see him value this new lifestyle that he has. Even though he's coming to learn it and understand it, he's cherishing it, he's appreciating it, and all of the weird quirkiness within it. These characters, the other three, are very important to him. This is Engine, handsome fella. The first person that Rudo meets, the person that saves him, is this guy. Very strong, very powerful, gets stuff done. He's kind of like the bad boy pseudo leader of the group. And while he's not technically the strongest in this story, his personality makes up for it. A lot of fire, a lot of passion, a lot of trolly playfulness, exactly what you would expect. But he also operates as a pseudo big brother to everyone. A lot of people look up to him. So while he can be annoying in his playfulness, he makes up for it in his ability to act and do and to even teach and lead. You will see him often. He's a great character, very strong in his presence, holds a lot of aura in general, and a lot of people love to rotate around him. Our third is Zanka, a little bit on the lower side when it comes to overall presence, but he is the quirky one in the group, more of the silent type, but very quick to flare up. Zanka's funny because he is incredibly powerful but doesn't necessarily believe in himself. There's a backstory that attaches to him that is very well handled, and it gives you a whole different perspective on his character. Later on, however, changes completely, and in a really fascinating way that starts his progression in a better way. Last but not least, our favorite girl, Rio. A lot of characters in this story have aura, they have a presence about themselves. Rio is arguably the strongest. Every time that she is drawn, every time that she gets into a fight, every time that you just see her, she steals the scene. And there's a chance for her to steal the entire arc if you give her a fight of value. Rio has a ton of personality. It's almost a little bit uncomfortable because you don't know exactly what she's thinking. And at first, I thought this was an oversight. I thought this was the author not really sure on what character they wanted Rio to be. I was wrong, and I'm happy that I was wrong, because later on when you find out about their story, their personality, where they come from, what they've gone through, it changes everything. That quote-unquote instability is a lot more flexible and a lot more believable now for specific reasons. These are only four of a much bigger cast of very beautiful characters. There's a lot of people in here, a lot with incredible charisma, incredible presence, super creative as well. When it comes to characters, you will never get bored. I promise you that. A good power system is like the glue to the story. If you have stuff that has action within it, you need a good power system. So what does Gachiakuta do? Funny enough, not revolutionary, but still unique enough for it to feel refreshing. So remember how I said this story is based solely around trash? Well, the abilities kind of reflect that. Simply, it is a giving system. You give something your energy, thus it will turn into an instrument that you can wield. What that power reflects, however, is very different. It doesn't have to be a weapon, doesn't even have to be an object, but the value of that give is what is important. Think of a trinket or an object or something that you own that is important to you. Maybe a family member gave it to you. Maybe a friend gave it to you. Maybe you have just had it for a very long time and it's important. The more important it is, the more value that it has, the more that you have cherished it and taken care of it, that would be your instrument. That would be your weapon. But Rudo is a little bit different. And if you want to know what he can do and what's possible, let's just say he's incredibly strong, incredibly gifted, talented, but he still has a long way to go to master it, and you'll have to read to find out. I love this power system. Super simple in its approach, but so much variety that you can give it. So much creativity that you can put into it. How it looks, how it feels, how it reacts, how the person actually wields it. There's a lot more to this power system as well. Stuff that borders onto spoilers, but what I can say, imagine something being inherited over time, like a family heirloom. Could you imagine how powerful that could actually be? And you see that multiple different times throughout this story. It's a fun power system that is elevated incredibly by the environment and the concept of the story itself being trash related and the value that you have for that trash. Very engaging. It does its job well. Now, I cannot talk about Gachiakuta unless I talk about the artwork, because have you seen this artwork? Have you seen what this author is capable of? I would say that out of all of the weekly stories that I am reading, all of the weekly stories that I have read, Gachiakuta is genuinely the most impressive. It is stylistic from top to bottom. No gaps, no jank, nothing. Just straight perfection within its craft in every single aspect. You probably notice a little bit of similarity to Soul Eater or even Fire Force, and supposedly that is because the author, not only a massive fan of Soul Eater, but also used to be an assistant. They have very beautiful artwork, very stylized, so much character, so much charm, so much energy. Honestly, the perspective, the distortion, the dynamic range of what they're able to showcase for these characters, and also the incredible, ridiculous, painstaking amount of detail that goes into all of that dynamic is honestly impossible to think of for a weekly story. Not to mention you have this grunge graffiti aesthetic that is so consistent that I believe another person does help with just for the graffiti stylization. Wraps everything beautifully together. There is nothing that this artist can't do. Easily, hands down, one of the best weekly reading experiences, honestly just overall art experiences that you will get. The personality comes through crazy. Every character has their own personality, every character has their own charm, and it's all because of how it's drawn. The closest thing that you could probably get to perfection in my opinion. And weekly too, it is absurd. It's honestly ridiculous. Gachiakuta has been a really fun experience. Honestly, it's a story that you can't really put down. Unfortunately, however, it's not the most accessible. It's difficult to read weekly because it's not part of Weekly Shonen Jump. It's part of Kodansha, and Kodansha don't really have a good website or app to make it easy to read their stories. Nor can you really read it for free even within Kodansha's app. It's a bit weird. Regardless of that, this is a story that you should be reading, even if it's not for the story, for the art expression alone. I think the future for Gachiakuta is incredibly bright and super successful. If this anime does well and even just captures a mere fraction of what this manga does well, it's going to be absolutely huge. So before everyone starts to flood towards it, get in ahead of the game. Check it out now. Gachiakuta Supremacy, it's here to stay, and it's going to do really well.